What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to a very special episode of Off the Mats podcast. This is episode 100. And let me tell you, I'm excited. I didn't think we're going to make it here because in the beginning, I didn't even know how to use the mixer. I think the first episode we used my phone, and you could tell because you could hear me, but you couldn't hear my guest. So off of that, and then just going through the learning process of figuring this all out, we got it moving. So episode 100, we're here. And for this episode, we're going to have quite a few guests here. And I'm going to be working together with my good friend Tiana Taylor as my co-host here. Welcome, Tiana. Thank you for this.
Thank you very much.
We're going to have a jiu-jitsu roundtable here with various ranks in the community. And we're going to go ahead and start off with some introductions. So first, I have BJJ Mama. Hello.
Hey there. Hey, sorry. BJJ Mama, Paige. I don't even know my real name anymore. I'm Paige. Also BJJ Mama, and I'm a blue belt down in Georgia.
Awesome. Thank you. And then I have student of BJJ. Welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be back on here. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Zach, student at BJJ, run the account, and somewhere between a white belt and purple belt. It depends on the day.
And then I have my good friend, Johan. I never know how to say your Instagram handle, so I just always refer to as Johan. Welcome, my friend.
Thank you. It's a mix between my last name and my first name, so I usually just say Julor because it's Johan Lorentzon. So, and I live in Sweden, so I think I've heard most north of all of you. Hold the rank of brown belt since 3 years ago now, 4 years maybe. I don't know. The pandemic have been kind of time just flies by. So yeah,
we have lost time with that. And then last but not least, we have Enriquez 218. Welcome.
Hey everyone, alexenriquez here, or Instagram handle Enriquez 218. I'm a black belt under Bruno Forzato and Nathan Hadley over at Atos Atlanta in Georgia.
Awesome. And that is our group here. And again, also my co-host, Tiana Taylor. So we're going to go ahead and just jump right in and get to some Q&A and conversation here. So my first question I wanted to address to Zach and kind of, really get everyone's take on this as well. But Zach, I haven't talked to you in so long, man. I miss you, dude. I wanted to ask
way too long.
Yes, absolutely. I wanted to ask you, with just life going on in general for you, you have a lot on your plate. You're balancing training, family, and you're working on the brilliant Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu app. How do you find time to balance all of that?
The sad answer is I don't. I'm always running from spot to spot. Wherever I see the squeaky wheel, that's where I got to get to. It'd be nice if I had better time management, but man, there's so much chaos rolled up, into each of those events that you just got to do what you got to do. And, when you wake up in the morning, you got to understand where your passions are, where the needs are, and that's what you address. So a lot of times, family, I have the faith that family's going to be there. So they sometimes get neglected more than they should until everything craters. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna set everything to the side and really focus on family. So the biggest thing that I try to do is whatever I'm doing in that moment, I try to be all in. If I'm with the family, but I'm thinking about the app, or if I'm at jiu-jitsu thinking about family, then I'm sort of failing two things instead of just failing one. So whatever I'm doing, I try to be really focused in on it. And then switching gears is really important. So I have to be able to, bad day on the mats, fine, leave it there. At least I got to train, be with family, and focus on that. Then everyone goes to bed, and, I'll work till who knows what time in the middle of the night, just because that's when I can focus on the app. So kind of jumping from passion to passion means I'm not super great at any one thing, but at least I'm, really stretching and learning no matter what I'm doing.
Yeah, I always wonder that whenever I want to message him, I'm like, man, this dude is so busy. I don't want to send no messages to him. So
No, I honestly like I'm very introverted by nature. So for me, like I don't feel isolated, but then I'll realize I've been way too isolated. I haven't reached out. And so all these relationships that I built out over time, I suck at keeping those maintained. And I always appreciate when someone reaches out to me because it's like, man, I've been meaning to do this for like 3 days or 3 weeks or whatever that is. And, that's sort of my flag that, okay, I really need to just sit down and focus on this relationship and get back into it. So I always appreciate the random messages. It's never a distraction. It's normally like something I needed to do anyway, and it just reprioritizes for me.
Sure thing. I will keep that in mind. We're kind of similar in that where I'm like, I get wrapped up and it's like, it's not that I'm forgetting to message people. Sometimes I'm just lost. But then there are cases, especially with you, I'm just like, okay, I know I have to message him. I'm sharing his post on Instagram. I should probably reach out to him at some point. Like, hey man, like nice post. Thanks. But I'm again glad to have you on here. Glad to hear from you. And
always stoked to be on this.
And Paige, you're also full plate. Tell me
Mom
about
life,
it.
man. Yeah. I don't know, kind of like what Zach said. It's a balancing act. Like I have my days where I wish my jiu-jitsu was better, but I know that it's not because I'm also focusing on being a mom and, we own a business and just trying to figure out what the perfect split of my time is. And I think too, the biggest thing, at least for people that are trying to juggle, like their real life and jiu-jitsu is just kind of like figuring out in the beginning what parts need what amount of attention. So, like before we had our kid, I was all, I'm going to compete and train and be whatever, something big. And then we had our kid and I'm like, oh, wait, she's cool. I want to hang with her a little bit. Like, I want to be a mom. So I had to kind of sit down and reevaluate like, okay, I'm probably not going to be some world-class athlete, but that's okay because I'm going to be a really good mom and a mediocre jiu-jitsu athlete. And that's okay too. But like, I think just coming to terms with that, instead of like continuing my journey and getting upset about other people getting higher rank or surpassing me. Like, I think that that's the biggest thing I had to, even still, I have my days where I'm like, oh, all these people that started with me, they're like brown belts now. And, my husband will remind me, he's like, your jiu-jitsu journey included you getting pregnant, having a kid. You used to have a full-time job, like calm down. But I think that that's like the biggest thing for people that are trying to juggle their, regular life and jiu-jitsu life.
And Alex, what about your training life balance?
So fortunately, I had since I'm very young, I'm just turned 23, so I kind of have that freedom of just doing whatever I want to do with like responsibilities, but I've chosen to pretty much dedicate like basically all of it to jiu-jitsu, and it's fortunately worked out for me for the better so far, and I've been able to start like the beginning of reaping the successes of it all, and it's been paying off. So I'm super happy about it all. I train anywhere from maybe like 6 to 7 days a week, mostly 2 to 3 times a day. And that's just with training that doesn't involve like teaching, doing privates, and then of course active rest days and all that. But it's been really a journey of like learning how to become a professional athlete. Especially since I think jiu-jitsu is like a younger sport, and we're, I think, on the cusp of exploding into something that could be really mainstream, really something that, the younger generation could look as into like a career where they can make possibly as much money as other professional sports do. And that's like super exciting. And so I'm right now trying to put all my chips into doing that, and because I'm like well, if it doesn't work out in 5 years, I'm only like 27, 28.
You're young enough. You'll recover. You'll be fine.
Exactly. So I was like, it would just be like a disservice if I didn't try to follow my passion and do it to the fullest. So just in the middle of doing that, and it's been an amazing ride so far. So can't complain.
Absolutely. Hey, and just so you know, I share it with you as well. I have a lot of responsibility. Yeah, I have a kid and everything in the family, but I do whatever I want. So
yeah, screw it.
Until my daughter reminds me, Dad, I need to be fed. She can't make her own food yet. Hey, Johan, what's that split like for you? Just that balance between life, training, and everything.
Yeah, I don't know how I actually manage it. Sometimes I have my ordinary job as well. I work in healthcare. I write articles, journalist, gaming, and also martial art. So I write for two web pages, and a family, 2 kids, wife. I train, and I don't know how I manage it, but somehow I do it. So, but I think it's been said about a few of you here too. You need to focus on one thing at a time. You can't have everything in your head all the time, because then it will just get too much. And I have always been a person who likes to have many things on my plate all the time. And in a way, I think how I handle stress, I just focus on one thing at a time, and I put away things I can't affect at the moment. If I have a thing at the job, I can't do anything about today, but I know I can do about tomorrow. I will push it on until tomorrow and not think about it so much today. But when I started training, it was after we got our first kid, and I needed to find something so I didn't end up on the couch being fat. And that was my way into jiu-jitsu. And my goal was like, okay, well, I maybe can get a blue belt before I retire. It would be fun. And you all know how that goes. You get on the mat and you get kind of obsessed with it. So here I am. But it's also a place where I can go and decompress to. I mean, I go there when I have a bad day and I can beat up someone. You have a bad day and you go there and meet all the people on the mat and spar or do whatever, and you just feel fine. So it's a big thing to have too, and it helps a lot.
Good. I also, when you mentioned, sitting on the couch getting fat, I was like, well, hey man, I'm still doing jiu-jitsu and doing that. So relax. I think I relaxed a little too much though. COVID, that's all. All right, so I'm gonna hand it over to my wonderful co-host. She has a very, very good question here. We'll pass it right on over to you, Miss Tiana.
So hi everyone, I'm going to direct this specifically towards Alex first, because I know you're a very active competitor. What would you say separates you from other competitors in your division?
Pretty much, I don't think I'm special in terms of other competitors, but what I do pride myself on is my mentality. And I feel like I've worked a lot on that since, and I've had support in even with professionals about like the competition mindset and stuff at a very young age. Probably when I was like late high school going into college, I was fortunate enough to have certain sponsors that were elite athletes in their field of work, and I just got to spend time with them, pick their brain, and listen and take in what it's like to be an elite athlete and what it takes. And so I feel like when I step on the mats, I don't think anybody could beat me. And it took some time in terms of like as I was competing and through like I've been a competitor. I've been doing jiu-jitsu for 12, 13 years, and I've been competitive since the first month of jiu-jitsu. At 11 years old, I started competing, and I never stopped.
Wow.
And so, of course, I think the similar thing goes through everyone's mind when they're competing. At some point, if you're like losing or you're not in a great position, you're like, oh, there's that thought in your head, like, oh, I might lose, or like, oh, I could just like give up now. And I feel like for me, what's changed a lot is that, and it's harder, like even more recently that used to so happen, but I've been able to like push out those thoughts of ever losing. And it doesn't matter if I'm going against maybe even like an Olympian or something or whoever, but it's just in my head when I step on the mats, it's just like I'm gonna win no matter what. I'm gonna beat you and you know, I'm gonna get the job done. So I feel like my mentality above all, I mean, I feel like it's always every professional athlete to work as much as you can, and it makes me feel guilty on other days if I'm like not training, or like, oh, maybe I had a little bit of an injury and I'm nursing it, but it like eats at me sometimes. I'm like, oh, what if someone's working out there working harder than me, and it like eats at me, and I'm just like, and so, and I know it like happens with everyone that you know that I'm always competing with myself, and it works out. Like I have people in the gym that push me. I mean, Faye, my partner, she's also a competitor, so everything is a competition with us. Even like even something that's not jiu-jitsu related, like eating and stuff. Everything is a competition, and I feel like it's in a lot of ways we make it into a game, and it's funny. But I can definitely say like sometimes I'm like, okay, this is too much competition all the time, but we always find a way to make it like lighthearted and fun. So keeping everything light and fun is a big thing for me. But it's all, I think when you get to the highest levels, everyone's technique is on point. It's the mindset that separates the very top from the ones that are just talented and also put in hard work.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point about mindset. I too have a sports psychologist because I've come back from 2 ACL reconstructions. Just generally what you said about mentality, that's what separates you, definitely. Yeah. And for everybody else, what would you say has been the biggest shift in your mindset as you've progressed through the ranks in jiu-jitsu?
I think for me, the biggest thing has been letting go of worrying about other people's rank, you know, because like when you're a white belt and you're first starting out and, oh, it's promotion or they're doing stripes, you're like ultimately thinking, oh, well, why didn't I get one, or da-da-da. And I think just being able to let go of that, at least for me personally, actually helped me be more secure in my personal journey. You know, like, okay, I'm a blue belt. I used to compete a lot. Now I compete when I can, but I have a lot more variables like a babysitter, or, you know, because we own a studio, a lot of times our students are competing. So, okay, I'm kind of on my own. So, you know, but just like not stressing about other people's journey and just realizing the things that are important in your personal jiu-jitsu journey.
I actually had the same thing. I think the epiphany around blue belt, I think. You started comparing to the others or the person next to you. And I might be the oldest in my gym. I think we're 2 or 3 about the same age, but you have younger people there in the same age of Alex, for example, and they are beating your ass. I mean, even if I'm a brown belt and you have a blue belt who has that age, like you will get your ass beat. So, and there was a time when I was thinking, okay, I need to stop worrying about everyone else. I need to focus what I can do and what my goal is. So I started to think like this: if I'm going in to practice and I'm better, and I'm leaving the practice better than the last practice for myself, then I have succeeded with my goals.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if I have submitted everyone on the mat or if I have been submitted 30 times. I always go in with some goals always in sparring too. I can go in with goals in sparring and like, okay, I will shoot for at least one triangle on each one of the person on the mat which I will meet. And if I succeed with that goal, I will be happy about it when I go from the mat, even if I get submitted 30 times. So yeah. And it made me a lot happier and when I started to focus on myself. And that's what I say to all the white belts when I instruct you. I focus on yourself and do not compare yourself so much to the others. It will just halt to you.
Yeah, as Paige said as well, it's a very personal journey. Zach, how has your mindset changed?
So I think it's a super interesting question, something I've spent a lot of time on thinking, not just about myself, but about just the community in general. I almost quit at blue belt because I felt like I would never get there, and like defining what there is part of the problem. What is there? But I remember at some point, maybe 1 or 2 stripes in a blue belt, I remember thinking back to when I was a white belt and seeing, and this is the first time, this is like 9 years ago, 2 black belts rolling in the gym for the first time. I'd never seen 2 black belts actually rolling with each other. And I couldn't believe the grace and the skill and this constant motion, just like 2 otters rolling with each other, just. And I remember thinking to myself as a white belt, wow, like that could never be me. But I enjoy it now, so I'm gonna keep doing it. And then somewhere like halfway through my blue belt journey, I was like, I'm still not there. And I feel like I'm no closer to that now than I was back then. And I realized like I'm spending all this time and I'm not there, and I don't feel like I'm getting there. And I remember going home and just thinking like, is this really like for me? And being pretty depressed about it, being down, and then still just not letting myself quit. Like I've enjoyed it for, what is it now, 3 or 4 years. Why would I just stop going now because I'm not at an elite level? So I started treating it as sort of, instead of trying to be in the NBA, just going for the pickup games, under the overpass, like just go have a good time with it, being scrappy, whatever, and not caring about those ultra high level stuff. And when I started doing that, I realized like why I was doing it in the first place. And it wasn't to be an elite level. It was to challenge myself. And when I started letting go of that pressure, I really started seeing myself improve a lot more. Like I could let go. I had this iron grip on what I was trying to do. And when I let it go, it actually became much easier. Like I opened up when I was rolling, became a lot more fluid. If a white belt tapped me, like, so what? Like I was in the laboratory anyway. I'm experimenting. That's what's supposed to happen. You experiment and you have to fail to know what works. And somewhere in there, in that shift, I realized like really why I was doing it. And I think that's where a lot of blue belts end up quitting, is they don't have that moment. They realize, oh, I'm starting to get a little bit older. I'm getting a little bit hurt. I wake up sore in the morning. This just isn't worth it. I'm never going to be elite level. So I'm going to go find a different, whatever that new passion is. And I hope they find it. But for me, I realized the passion was jiu-jitsu the whole time.
I think it has to do with
sorry.
I was going to say, I think it has a lot to do too with like the culture of the people you surround yourself at your gym. I'm in a lot of different forums and I'll hear people that they just post the craziest things that their coaches have said or done and all this. And I'm like, you need to be somewhere where people are encouraging your personal journey. Like it is your own journey, but you're also still part of a team, but finding where you all fit together, I think. So I feel like a lot of people get to that blue belt point. And if they aren't in a school where it's like a family, or they haven't created relationships with other people, maybe they feel a little lost, or like Zach was saying, you have this tight grip on something. And if you don't jump into it more than just coming to your classes a few days a week and then going home and not creating relationships, like I think people just get burned out and they move on.
Yeah. I also think with jiu-jitsu, I used to say this also to my students, it's like it's a sport or a martial art you always feel you're shitty at. I mean, you never feel good. I didn't feel good when I was white belt, and I don't feel good now when I'm a brown belt. And I think it's because you always train with the same kind of people, and they are progressing at the same level. So the person who beats you when you're white belt will probably beat you when you're black belt too. But what you will notice is when you go to another gym or train or be a guest, then you might actually feel like, okay, well, I actually know some stuff. Or as when I started to instruct and have students myself, I feel like, well, I actually know stuff. So yeah, but just the feeling that you never feel good about it, good about jiu-jitsu is pretty, yeah.
Okay, interesting. Okay, Jake, I'll hand back to you.
Yeah, just to speak to Zach's point, and really like kind of overall with what Paige was saying as well, I've kind of felt that in recent months, that weird feeling of that journey being trying to understand now this is my journey, and I have to now embrace this and stop looking at the rest of the team as like, well, they're doing this and they're doing that, and realize this is just me. So thank you guys for your answers. That actually really helped me. So not only is this a podcast, but it's also therapy for me. So thank you.
For us all, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Jiu-jitsu therapy.
Yep.
So I'm gonna ask Johan this question here, because you're coming to us all the way from the beautiful land of Sweden, and always conversing with you, and I wonder, what's the jiu-jitsu scene like for you there in Sweden? Like, are there like other gyms nearby? Do you cross train with any other gyms, or just what's that like for you in that community?
Yeah, I've actually thought about this myself, and I talk about it a lot with my friends too. I think the Swedish jiu-jitsu community are very close. I mean, the gyms, we are not really competitors. Well, we are, because when we meet each other at the competitions, but there are a lot of cross trains and guesting to other gyms, and there's no problem really. I think when you look at things in other places, there seem to be more. We don't see it as much as them versus us. I think even if we are competing, it's okay to go to another gym and train on Sunday. Or no one in my gym would say anything about it. It's more like, okay, fine. Well, did they learn something new? So, and it's the same when you are trying to get people here to do seminars and stuff. It doesn't matter from which school they come. We are always happy, but that might be also because we're living in Sweden. So if we can get some high level BJJ practitioner here, everyone will be happy, and we need to also get around it so they can get paid, because they're pretty expensive.
That's true. And I was also wondering this because sometimes maybe I kind of just blind myself to a lot of comments and things online, because you trained Gracie Baja is your club, and anytime I put up a post, like I think Mario Lopez, AC Slater from Saved by the Bell, just competed, and he trains Gracie Baja, and everyone started chirping in it's a Gracie Baja propaganda film and whatnot. At some other points I started getting that weird impression, like, does Gracie Baja not cross train? So that's also part of why I was wanting to know, like, what's it like out there cross training wise for you all? Is it just kind of like, hey, we're here, we're gonna isolate ourselves, or is it a tight community?
Yeah. So the thing is, we are Gracie Baja, and I'm proud of it, but we kind of do our thing here in Sweden ourselves. Sports here are kind of different than other countries. I think I explained this to you before, Dante. We can't live off. It would be really hard for me to start a gym here and get paid and have this as my work, because the Swedish government actually put in money so the kids are supposed to do stuff, go to football, go to martial art, go to whatever. So our sport culture are to not make money, and this kind of clashes a little with Gracie Baja, I think, because when I talk to other coaches from other countries, they are more like, well, why don't you make money off your? Well, I teach and I don't make money, but that's how it is here. It's so yeah, and that's why we also have to do things a bit different. We can't, and I think also that's why we cross train and train together and stuff like that. So, and here in Umeå, we like 100,000 inhabitants, I think. So we have quite a lot JItsu gyms for that. When I think about it, I think we have 5 gyms here who train. One of them are all stars, which also have had 3 or 4 UFC fighters. So that's kind of interesting.
I didn't realize you had that many gyms like nearby. I don't know why in my head I was just thinking like, they probably got like a gym and a half. There's not a lot of gyms over there. It's like oh, okay, cool. Never mind. Sorry, misjudging everyone.
Yeah, but I think Umeå is kind of different there too. We have a lot of we have a sport culture. It's a students' city, so and I'm born here, and I know that we always had martial arts, nearly every type of traditional martial arts. So it's kind of a thing here. If you go to another small city up here, I think they might have 1 gym or 2 if they're lucky.
And just so you know, my wife and I, we've been talking about traveling at some point. And when I told her about Umia, she was like, "Oh, we got to go there." I was like, "Hey, I got people there. Yeah, let's go." I'm packing my gi. I'm not. I'm sure it's beautiful. That's great. I just want to go there and train with my friends. That's all. I'm gonna hand this back over to Tiana.
Yeah, that's a really interesting response you gave, Johan, about the BJJ scene and the culture in Sweden. For everybody else, I'd be really interested to know what aspects of BJJ culture you would like to change. It doesn't necessarily have to be where you are situated, where you live, where you train, but with what you've read, your experiences, what aspects of the BJJ culture would you like to change, if you could?
I think the biggest thing that you see that most jiu-jitsu communities maybe struggle with, and it's not just to say for jiu-jitsu only. I've seen this at like every sport, but like the politics of it all, and that goes back to like, you know, some gyms allow cross training, some gyms don't. It just kind of depends on you know, the instructor or how whatever gym you're at, like how their upbringing, I guess, and their culture that they've been around, you know, whatever point of view they were raised with through their jiu-jitsu career. And I've seen it all. I've seen a lot of different cultures, and like, you know, the ones that thrive, the one that stop themselves from being a successful gym. And so I'd say probably, yeah, the whole politics of, you know, cross training, or just, you know, or like leaving certain gyms to go to like the whole Krianche, the whole thing of that. And it's with jiu-jitsu growing and more Americans doing it. I've not to say that it's just only Americans doing it, but I've seen other Brazilians that have been open to cross training and all that. But I think it's being more it's jiu-jitsu spreading faster. It's being more accepted that it's okay to cross train, and it doesn't mean that you're a creante or that you're leaving a gym or that your loyalties aren't, like everywhere just because someone might like to cross trainer. So
yeah.
To piggyback a little bit on what she said, I think like changing that is great, but I also feel like it is starting to change. Like I can see, and for those of you that don't know, Alex is actually, we do private lessons and we're not on the same team at all. And
traders.
He's good, y'all. There's a little plug-in for Alex. But I think that, years and years ago, when my husband talks about what jiu-jitsu used to be with like him and how they all started, way back when, he's like, that would not have been a thing that you like pay an instructor from somewhere else, but you're still competing on a different team. But I feel like now we're starting to understand that like, hey, if we want this sport to grow as a whole, we have to all support one another.
Yeah.
And I think also too, I think it helps a little bit that more women are getting into the sport, because I think that naturally women, because there are so few of us in the sport, we find each other, and like all of the ladies on Alex's team have been so nice to me, and like we all follow each other now and we'll message about things that are going on and connect. But I think that helps if you also embrace like into the whole jiu-jitsu culture. Like you dive in hard. I think that also helps with your journey. We were talking earlier about people that stop at blue belt because they just don't get where they want to. I think if you don't immerse in it and see the things that need to change or try to help the sport progress in general, you don't really have much invested interest in it, I guess. I think my big thing that I would hope to change, and if you follow my Instagram page for even 2 seconds, I'm all about like body positivity and different people of any walk of life feeling like they can come in on the mats and try sport. I wish that there was more, I don't want to say fair, but I wish that it was even across the board from male and females competing in the sport, if that makes sense. Just from the experience as a female competing, to the weight class options, to having other available women to have matches against, because there's not a lot of females in the sport. But I feel like it's a vicious cycle, like there's not the weight classes, so then the people don't compete. But if we had the weight classes, maybe they would, just like, I wish that jiu-jitsu would kind of embrace women a little more. And that's not to say that I don't see that it is. It definitely is starting to get there, but I think there's a lot of organizations that still could do a little bit of a better job to include women on their, I know you guys have all seen the stuff, to have women on their boards or as part of their management team, instead of just, we're going to offer a women's class and we're going to let that one female black belt teach it, and then we've done our part, But that's my big thing that I wish jiu-jitsu would change.
I was actually coming to that too. The thing about females and females who train, because that can be, they are changing. And actually here in Sweden, we have a big thing now that we try to, talk about this and make a big thing about getting females on the mat and make them feel comfortable with it.
Yeah.
And also if they are treated bad on the mat, they are supposed
I think it's the culture, to start talking about it. And I think that too, not to get on like some big feminist soapbox or anything, but I think that, and Jake and Zach, you guys do an awesome job on your large platforms to like promote women in the sport. Like, don't make it a weird thing, you see all the weird like sexist memes or the creepers that make comments on female pages and stuff. Like, I think that we need more men to stand up for that behavior to not happen, so that when those new females come in, there's like not any sort of awkwardness. It's just jiu-jitsu is a close sport and awkward things might happen and we all just keep moving. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's where it needs to change from like, people that maybe have like third grader mentality.
Yeah, I totally agree. There are a few things that, from my point of view, that I took some notes here while you guys were talking. I guess 4 main points for me that I would change in jiu-jitsu, and a lot of them are actually kind of related to each other. But the first one is money literacy. There's no money in the sport unless you're super high level and unless you can have like instructions or something. So helping people to understand like the money aspect of the game and like how can you really leverage your account, whether it's social media, whether it's like whatever, to actually make money so that you can dedicate yourself full time. I think until there's more people that can dedicate themselves full time to training, that you're not going to get the true innovation. And I think that's why like right now Pedigo is so hot, because they have people spending their entire lives like living in the gym and they're training full time, and they have zero money, but you know what, they're fully committed. And I think you're going to see a lot of like really cool innovations in the sport come out of because of that. And I would love to get to the point where people that want to invest full time in it can also understand money and not have to live, without some basic comforts or healthcare, that kind of thing. I think that is one of the reasons why the sport evolved from Brazil and came out, is just the number of people that are willing to like live in the gym and grind it out day after day. And then, 10 years after doing that, they come out and they're absolute monsters. And if they were able to do that with a little bit more money and comforts, I think you'd get some different minds and bodies that would come out of it. I think part of the problem with the way that the sport came out of Brazil in the first place, though, is it created there's a right way to do something. There's a right way to teach and a right way to learn. And I think that's an issue with my jiu-jitsu, was I was taught the way that my coach was taught. And that's not how my mind works. And I spent multiple years learning in a way that didn't make sense to me. It really like held me back. And it wasn't until I learned that there were different ways to learn that I started getting better. Yeah. I think that if there was more money literacy in the sport, I think that if there was a better access to these resources, and it's getting better, that I would be a very different athlete than what I was before. So I'm glad to see some of these changes are happening. I had the third point, which was the being more inclusive. So Paige already talked about that, and I'm really glad to see that there's a culture shift. It's slower than it needs to be, but at least there are some changes that are happening, and I'm happy to, my account, I really want to be inclusive. I want to make sure that I'm not like accidentally stepping on toes or consciously stepping on toes to tell somebody that they're not good enough to train, regardless of their background, regardless of their gender, race, whatever. And that's been really important to me from the beginning. And I really hope that that continues to echo out through time, because I think you're only going to get to the super high level of jiu-jitsu if you have different kinds of people that are doing it, different body types, different genders, different economic backgrounds. Like, it's just not going to happen unless we encourage everyone to get into that tank and start evolving. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. This is interesting too, because I talked about the state helping us train here, and I just thought about it now, because it's one thing. We actually have a program now which are helping. Well, the Sweden's martial art board are helping pregnant women, pro athletes in BJJ, to get back to the mat after they.
Oh, that's awesome!
That's incredible.
Yeah, and that's a big thing right now. So
yeah,
I hope more countries can do this, because it's a very taxing thing on your body.
That's so great.
Yeah.
I think too, once we get more women involved, I think my biggest thing that still baffles me when women are shocked that, like, wait, you're a mom and you do jiu-jitsu and you enjoy it? Like, yes, you can't wait for the perfect opportunity to be like in the best shape, in the best everything, to then go try jiu-jitsu. I mean, I come from a school where we really, really put a lot of focus on self-defense. So anytime someone even mentions that to me, I'm like, someone attacking you doesn't care if you're fat. They don't care if you're skinny. No. They don't care what color you are. Yeah. They're going to attack you. And chances are, if you are all of those things, they're probably going to more likely attack you. Like, I mean, Alex over here could like strangle anyone. She lives and breathes jiu-jitsu. I mean, you just look at her and I would not want to but I'm like walking with my homely mom sweater and my kid, like they're probably going to target someone like me. So I just wish that there were more people that understood that. Like, I feel like so many people talk about, well, maybe I'll try it when I'm in better shape, or like, I don't know, my schedule, or, you know, whatever. I just feel like it's one of those things that like, there's not going to be a perfect time. And I also feel like what Zach said about we need more people involved in it. I think the sport will grow more the more people that become passionate about it at their different levels. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not a world athlete, but I really love it. And it's like we live and breathe jiu-jitsu on our house, but that doesn't mean I have to be a world-class athlete. I can just really be passionate about it. And I think that people don't understand that. They see it as like a big scary thing, like, oh, you have to be really good to try to do that, or you have to be like competing all the time. Like, we kind of need more hobbyists in the sport, because those are the people that fund it and keep it going, because they're hobbyists and they have day jobs with money to fund the sport. You know, like, we need more of those people.
No, some really, really good points there from everyone. Really, really interesting as well. But I think, as you said, Paige, the change is starting to happen, that there is a way to go. What's happening in Sweden, I mean, that's incredible. Getting pregnant women back on the mats, and you know, after having a baby, I've not come across that anywhere. So I think that's a really, really important stepping stone. And Zach, the points you mentioned, all really valid as well. All really good points. So I'll hand back to Jake.
All right. So Zach, I know with COVID and everything, it's kind of wreaked havoc on everyone's lives, training and everything. I know you've recently, started with a new gym. I guess what I want to ask you, with kind of getting back to the mats and, getting with the new gym, what are you currently, kind of focusing on in returning to training and just kind of getting your feet back on the ground?
So that seems to change week to week, but the biggest overall thing that I've learned about my jiu-jitsu was it's a little bit on the lazy side. And coming back from COVID, that's not really compatible. I was lazy for, too long, waiting for the world to clear up. And, I came back and tried my same lazy style, but I was also like out of shape, and it's not compatible. I was getting just blown by everyone. And, just getting not just my work ethic and fitness up, but also like the mentality of, okay, I can't just sit around here. I can't just flow roll every single roll. I'm not at that level anymore where it's okay. I've got to start pushing the pace a little bit. I've got to start being more aggressive with my guard passing, being more comfortable on my feet. So it was an opportunity for me to really think about who I wanted to be as a grappler, and to start pursuing some of those more, exciting while also being fundamental aspects of jiu-jitsu, starting from standing, which I didn't really do a whole lot before. How can I push the pace? How can I get someone to the ground? And instead of just taking a deep breath, I keep going. Okay, I got into the ground, but now, secure the position, climb the position. Don't let them have a moment to be lazy. And that's kind of the big thing that I've been working through. And I don't know if that's normal from pandemic, if that's normal from just like a purple belt progression or what, but just really like taking a good hard look at everything I've done so far and deciding, is that the right way? Or do I need to fundamentally shift what I'm doing? And it's been rewarding and frustrating at the same time.
I actually think that's the purple way of doing things. That's what I remember. I was doing the same thing. I was like, okay, now I need to look at my toolbox. What do I need? What works? What do not work? And starting to make a smaller box of it and use what I can use. So I think you're actually even in pandemic or not, I think you're doing the right thing.
Yeah, picked a hell of a time to do it.
Yeah.
Time is everything.
Yeah, Alex, I'd like to hear a little bit about your journey on jiu-jitsu and to black belt. Was that a fairly normal progression for you as well?
Yeah, I think mine was like very straightforward. And I think because I started so young, it's like, what else do you do? Well, like when your parents just take you to practice, or even my coaches would take me to practice. I really enjoyed it. luckily I never really burned out because I just really liked doing it. So it was never something forced on me, and I felt like I always had fun doing jiu-jitsu because I was just naturally good at it from the beginning. It just made sense to me. And it also helped that when I was like 11, I'm like the same size as I am now. I like was already 5'5", but just like 100 pounds. I like was smaller in weight, but like 5'5". So everyone I fought was like a foot smaller than me, and I would just like bear hug them to the ground. I'm like, this is so much fun beating up on people. But yeah, I'd say if anything, I started when I was 11. By the time I was 14 and got into high school, I started wrestling because I had a feeling like I wanted to get better at takedowns. I wanted to be like a very complete grappler. And especially at that time, like takedowns weren't really big for a lot of jiu-jitsu people. So I was like, oh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get really good so that by the time I'm like done wrestling or afterwards or later down the road at black belt or brown belt, that it will really pay off. And it did, but it was so humbling to go to another sport. And especially when I wrestled in high school, there wasn't a girls team, so I was just on the guys team. But luckily my coach St. James at the time was very well known in Georgia wrestling, and he actually was one of the first Team Georgia girls coaches back then. So he was always super supportive. I think I was really fortunate, like throughout my career. I've always had very supportive coaches, and I haven't really had any unfortunate situations where it like would have troubled me. And so went to wrestling, got my butt kicked by all the boys, and it was crazy because I went from starting jiu-jitsu and I was just naturally good at it. I was beating everyone, and then all of a sudden I would start losing everything. I had like I learned about cutting weight all the wrong ways. I think everything I did throughout my jiu-jitsu career, I like learned how to do everything wrong, and then I was like, okay, maybe I should eat food when I cut weight instead of just starving myself. or I need to do active recovery. I need to do mobility. I can't just like sleep all day and like all the things that young athletes, kind of like the learning process of that. And it helped me a lot over the years, but it was difficult to switch over to wrestling. It was very humbling for me. And I think apart from what Tiana asked earlier about what separates athletes or what separates me from other athletes, is that other than mindset, is like I pride myself on being very humble and not having an ego. And I think so that just keeping that that idea growing up like really helped me not get too held up on like someone that was like a lower belt tapping me or getting beat up by the boys or something. I wasn't giving myself excuses and stuff. I wasn't like, oh, it's okay if I get beat up by a guy because they're a guy. I like didn't understand that when I was like 12 years old to 14. I was like, guys have puberty and like they get stronger than you. And there was a transition when it was like me and like a group of other boys that were my age going through the ranks at in jiu-jitsu, and I think that's what made us really competitive as kids, is because I had a really good group of training partners around my same size. But by the time we were like 14, 15, they started hitting puberty, and I was like, why are you getting so strong? And like, and I was like, because I was the big one. They were like tiny compared to me. And then all of a sudden they started hitting puberty, and I was like, what the heck is going on? and then my coach, Steve, had to talk to me like, listen, guys are going to be strong. And I was like, no, this is not. that acceptance thing as a teenager was really, or a preteen was really funny. But keeping that, and then go and actually even seeing it now, the idea of being very humble and not having any ego, keeping that throughout the years has definitely helped me, I feel like, progress faster, because I've always, like, I've never let the idea of anything, for me, my mindset is that it doesn't matter if something is gonna, anything, any idea, concept, or attitude, if it's hinders me from getting better, then I'm gonna drop it immediately. So like having an ego, or like even in the smallest thing, like doesn't matter if a white belt taps me or a blue belt taps me, or it's just like, oh, I'll ask them right away. It's like, what was that? Or like, how'd you do that? Like, or like even when I'm teaching, and I see this even with Bruno Forzato, he's like a legend in the sport, but he's so humble. He'll even ask like if he knows someone's. We have a blue belt at our gym, and he's like a teenager, but all he does is watch Mikey Musumeci videos all day, and so he's just like deep in the jiu-jitsu sauce, and he loves berimbolos and everything. And Bruno will be teaching something, and out of Bruno's knowledge, he'll also even ask the blue belt, is there anything you can add? And that like really blew away my mind. Like the first time I was like, but you're Bruno, like. But he had that same mentality of like being so humble. He's always open to learning from other people. Doesn't matter if you're a white belt, but if he knows like you have a really great wrestling background, he's open to like stepping down and like asking other people questions, or like confirmation, like, oh, is this right, and stuff. And it was great seeing that, even from someone that is now my coach, and that's someone that I look up to, and I'm like, okay, like this is the steps, this should be the attitude you have, so that you can keep progressing. You don't have to end up like peaking, so you could always find those small progressions and stuff to keep you motivated to keep going.
That is really refreshing to hear. It very much sounds, Alex, that you have a growth mindset rather than a fixed mindset, and you're always open to learning. But to hear that your coach will ask a blue belt if they have anything to add, that we need to see more of, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
We pride ourselves at our gym with that too. I, for example, now have a white belt, a beginner who has been doing Greco-Roman wrestling.
Oh yeah.
And that freaking guy, he had my back, and his body lock, I don't know, man. So, and you need to, everyone will come into the practice or start with some skills or non-skills, but a white belt, they cannot be wrestled for 20 years. You don't know. And you always need to know, so everyone have something to learn you.
I think it's great to see the shift of people communicating outside of their own gyms, but still having allegiance to their team and stuff. You know, I feel like years ago, it was either don't cross train, or if someone did go to another gym, it was because they would eventually leave and now they're going to go train there. But now I feel like it's a lot more open. And I think too, you know, like Alex was talking about Bruno, he's such a cool guy, and Alex as well. You know, we're pretty close proximity, and my husband and I own a very small gym. And, you know, we came to see Alex get her black belt, and Bruno was like, oh, I'm so glad you're here. And he's like, gives me a hug. And I was like, oh, okay. Oh, you're a cool guy. You know, like, I think it's cool because I, from years ago, would not have expected that, or even to have been invited to another team's ceremony of, you know, Alex getting her black belt and that sort of thing. I think that that's where the shift is starting to happen. And I think it's so great that there's so many high level people like Alex and Bruno, you know, and like Johan, you were saying up there in Sweden that you guys will cross train and stuff. I think that that's what we need more of, more high level people opening up their minds and their gyms and everything to just, you know, like I'm seeing more people that are like, oh, it's an open mat, just come, but not the old mindset of like, it's open mat, but people only go so that they can smash the other team and then leave. Like anytime I've gone to stuff at Alex's, all the teammates are so nice, and then we'll connect. And like I hosted a ladies thing, and I was the only person, well, mostly because I'm the only female at my gym, but they were all other females and like other teams, and we trained. And I mean, Alex, I don't think anyone at any point was like, I'm gonna smash this person, and then we all went out for drinks after. I think we need more of that.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yep. I feel like a lot of gym owners have this fence around their area, and they think, oh, I can't handle more competition. A new gym comes in, that's competition. But I've been in several different cities, training several different gyms, and it seems like adding a new gym to the area, it's like adding a fish to a pond. Like it doesn't actually make the pond smaller.
Yeah.
It actually makes the pond bigger. Like it allows you to support more and more fish in the pond the more you add. So if you really want like your gym to grow, there's only so many people you can attract, but if you can bring other gyms to the area, allow people to go there, give people a choice, it becomes more mainstream. More and more people start hearing about jiu-jitsu, and then they go find, the one that fits them. There's no perfect gym for someone. Like there's no umbrella gym that fits everyone. So the more different kinds of gyms you have, the easier it is to like bring people into different areas.
I was just thinking that it's so great that you said that. Like we've had people, that they're not students, but they'll come and they'll try a class. And, once we talk to them, I mean, there's been times where like, listen, we're not like an uber competitive school. Otto's down the road. Like if you're looking to compete hard, or, hey, there's, another school down here, like, so I feel like it helps if we all communicate to learn the other one's culture, because then we could help each other out more, instead of, like you said, everyone having a fence around like, this is just my jiu-jitsu bubble, and if you walk in, like, you're never allowed to leave. I think that's how we're going to end up having people in the sport long term. If someone starts for self-defense and then they like it, and maybe they decide they do want to compete and they move to another gym that's more competitive because that's what they need, I think that should be celebrated, because great, it's the longevity of our sport, like fantastic. Keep going, keep in touch, connect. I wish more people had that mindset.
Agreed.
Yeah. Zach, you mentioned that you nearly quit at blue belt because
sad but true,
yeah. So it must. I imagine it must have felt great to progress to purple.
Yeah, it's scary, but yeah.
And Paige, you also mentioned that for you, part of the reason that a gym is successful is that the students feel at home there, they feel welcomed, bad behaviors called out, etc. Alex, you're obviously right at the top, and Johan, you're a brown belt as well. Something I'd like to ask all of you, is there ever, I know Zach, you've kind of answered this, but has there ever been another belt you felt like quitting at, where you just thought, I can't do this, or I don't want to do it? I know for Zach, for you, it was blue. What about everyone else?
It's funny because at our gym, we quit at brown belt. The blue belt stays, but the brown belt quits. I'm the only brown belt left in our gym right now. So,
Wow.
So my coach was kind of like, okay, I will giving you the brown belt, but you have to promise me to not quit. So yeah, but for me, no. I heard about people quitting at blue belt, and I could maybe feel it a bit because it's you move up there and you are kind of on a step where it feels like nothing is happening. But I just kept going, and for me it was more like, okay, well, I need to exercise and I need to, but I just wanted to train. So for me it wasn't about progress, and also my goal was blue belt, so I was like, okay, well, I can as well keep going. So why the heck not?
What about you, Alex?
Oh yeah, go Alex.
Well, for me, jiu-jitsu was always a constant. I know it's always been like an ongoing thing. It's just like, when people get their blue belt, they quit, or you never see them again. Like, finally get it, and then it's like, and I think blue belt is probably the largest hump to get over. Is like once you get your blue belt, and if you stick with it, if you decide to stick with it, you're eventually going to get your black belt, no matter how long it takes. Sometimes it takes people, the average time I think it takes to get a black belt is 10 years. And then, of course, plus or minus for all the factors for different people. It took me like 11 years, but also because I went through the kids system. Just the age thing as well. I went through all the kids belt before the gray belt even existed. So it just went white, yellow, orange, and green. But for me, personally, jiu-jitsu was like always a constant for me. It was always like the fun thing I like to do. So I've seen and I've had teammates of all ages, and backgrounds. So I've seen all the different pathways and struggles, and seeing all the different things come up in life. But for me, jiu-jitsu was always like my fallback and constant in life. And I kind of always molded everything in my life so that I can do jiu-jitsu full time. Even like when I went to, even when I went to college full time, I was still doing jiu-jitsu full time, and then working at a restaurant part time.
Wow.
I was always good at multitasking. I think I get it from my mom. My mom was in the Philippines. She was worked for the governor and stuff, and she was just like one of those boss ladies and stuff. And I was able to, I guess, inherit that. Like multitasking never felt too overwhelming for me. But I think it made me manage my time a lot better, especially when I was in school. Like my parents never even pushed me to get good grades. I just wanted to get good grades. And I think they set me up with tutors when I was in pre-K and kindergarten while we were in the Philippines. And I think that helped jumpstart my education and ability to learn, I guess. And school was always easy for me, so it wasn't an issue. Like the multitasking and school, like doing jiu-jitsu full time and then working, it almost felt nice for me to do something else other than jiu-jitsu and have a normal life. Like going to work at the restaurant for me was actually really fun. Like getting to meet normal people that don't do jiu-jitsu. I was like, what do you do? What do you do? But it would be amazing. I love my friends that don't do jiu-jitsu and stuff, and it keeps me when I'm doing jiu-jitsu too much, or I'm getting too burned out from just a long hard week of training and stuff, and getting to appreciate the hard work and the successes from it, and then also getting to slow down and just float down the river on a nice summer day and stuff.
Yeah,
and hanging out with friends is it's so much fun. It's worth it. So jiu-jitsu was never I never thought I would, never had that experience yet where I thought I would quit. I did have surgeries that would I've had two major surgeries, one at 15 on my shoulder, and then one at maybe it was in 2018, so not too long ago, on my knee. And those each took a year to recover, to get back to my full normal 20-year-old self, and not feel like I was having to warm up for 30 minutes just to get just so I could fully squat and do all my range of motion. But even when I was injured, I was just thinking jiu-jitsu or wrestling. And I think that's probably because one of my major injuries when I had my knee surgery was during the wrestling season. So we were required in college. I was still required to go to practice, even if I was just sitting on the side. And it helped because my partner Faye was also doing her first year wrestling ever in college. So there was that opportunity and that's why female wrestling I think is also growing, because a lot of collegiate opportunities, even if you have no experience, that they're offering scholarships. And so I kind of just focused on helping her, even though I was sidelined. So, and it just kind of tests me in in my like my mindset. And of course, I wasn't always perfect. There'd be times where I'd just be like, oh no, I don't want to do this anymore. But it was never like I want to quit. I think it was just a testament to my like, mental strength or something about coming back. So I don't think I've gotten to the point where I've been broken yet from jiu-jitsu. So when I get there, then
fingers crossed you won't get there. It will never happen.
It'll probably be
about it this point. Like you're watching.
Yeah, I'll be like, I quit.
It's not technically called quitting now. It's just like a rest day for you, right?
Right. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, just not for me. Hasn't happened. But I've seen other people go through it and then come back from it, and it's been amazing. Watching their journey and seeing them pick something back up that they thought they might not have continued, and it's really cool to see. I'd rather pick the white belt that sucks at jiu-jitsu but keeps trying every day than the talented one that just thinks that doesn't put in the hard work,
Yeah. Okay, back to you, Jake.
Oh, okay.
Falling asleep back there.
No, I was listening. I was like, okay, anybody else have a quitting story?
I mean, I'm living through the blue belt blues, so I'll let you know, I guess, how I fare through it.
Yeah.
But you're still here, so.
I mean, yeah, no, I think, I don't know. I feel like maybe I'm a little bit of a unique situation since we also have our own school, so I don't know if quitting would technically be an option at this point.
Closing the school.
Right, like I'm married to my coach. I don't think I have an option to quit. Like I don't think I could.
Yeah.
No, I think for me, the hardest part was COVID, because before COVID, I was competing a lot. Like when I first started doing the podcast with you, I was still like white belt and competing and like top 25 masters, all these things. And like it was a huge part of my identity, but then also realizing that like, okay, do I want to be the best? Like, this is going to sound terrible. And we talked about this before, Jake, but like, do I want to be the best at being kind of okay? Like as a white belt, like, do you want to be the best at sucking? Or do you want to get better and, have a long journey? So I actually got my blue belt right before COVID hit. Like we had traveled right before they stopped people traveling. So like we went up to Wisconsin, Carlson Gracie Jr. put my blue belt on me, February, whatever, 2020, I guess, when everything started. So then completely shifted to stay-at-home mom, homeschooling because of COVID. Like we had never, homeschooled before. And then, changing our locations for our gym. So I kind of had a little bit recently, right before I started doing lessons with Alex, a little bit of like an identity crisis of like, okay, I did one tournament as a blue belt and I got smashed, but I also got smashed because the majority of the people I went up against are not also stay-at-home, homeschool, business. Like, so I think I've had to kind of be a little scrappier and try to remind myself that it's okay to lose sometimes, but to keep going. But I did, at first I had done, and I've told Alex this, my husband was like, okay, we got to get better at your stand-up if you're going to like long-term compete. Like, I don't have some goal of being the world-class best, whatever, but like, I want to be really good when I compete and I would like to win as often as possible. So we were doing judo and I was like, I don't like this. I don't like being thrown. I don't like throwing people. I'm scared. It hurts. I don't want to do it. So my husband was like, well, why don't we look into wrestling? And then if you enjoy that more, maybe you will enjoy your jiu-jitsu more too, because, you're not so terrified of like the start of the match and stuff. So working with Alex really helped me to feel like, okay, I can navigate through this. Like, you know, I have keys to the place so I can get my jujitsu better. Like I'm in this for the long haul, even if I'm not better right away, but like finding that joy. And I think too, for me, again, I know I'm a unique situation because I'm like married to my coach and we have a gym and everything. I think having that little bit of like time, this is so cheesy, but like that time with Alex, it's like mine, that like we're there doing something that I'm enjoying that's helping my jujitsu, instead of like investing in all of our students or, you know, the homeschool scene or the mom scene. So like for me, jujitsu has kind of become like a little bit of my identity. And it makes me, it's so funny. Someone the other day was like, you don't act like a normal mom. I was like, oh, are normal moms not allowed to do like jujitsu and all these things? And I think that's kind of where sometimes people can get those blue belt blues, or even just the blues of like not feeling like they're progressing enough because they're not looking at the whole picture. You know, like I got really upset or emotional that like, oh man, I don't feel like, you know, I feel like I should be higher ranked than I am, but then reminding myself like, wait a minute, I'm like a full-time mom, all these 100 other things that I'm doing. These other people that are surpassing me are also training 6 to 7 days a week, 2 times a day. They don't have all these other things. And it's not to discredit that they don't have the things that I'm encountering, but just to realize like, okay, if I'm really in this for the long haul, I need to stop caring what other people are doing. So
no, I think that's, you made a really good point there, and it's something I can relate to because my my partner is also my coach, and we co-run 2 gyms here in Madrid, and they're both growing quite rapidly. So when I was out with my ACL, I knew I'd be out for a bit, but I'm a blue belt as well, but I just knew there's no quitting. I can't quit. It's not happening. I also didn't want to quit as well, so that did help. But
yeah, I should preface, I haven't ever been like I hate it and don't want to do it, but I also think, like you said, when you are immersed in it as much as we are, I think you don't even allow yourself to think like you couldn't. You're like, I'll recover and heal and get back to it.
yeah.
I went through a period twice, once at white belt, and I wasn't thinking about quitting. I said to a teammate, I think I want to take a bit of a breather, because once my career changed, I had a lot of time to get to the gym, and it just all the available slots. I was just going anytime I could get in, and I was like, oh, I think I'm burning out. And I says to one teammate, we were sitting on the sideline, I was like, I think I might take a little bit of a breather. And he turns to me like dead serious. He goes, don't fucking quit. And I was just like I'm getting chills now.
like bro.
I was like, okay, because I'd never heard him cuss. So I was like, oh my God, like
serious.
This is legit. Yeah. Like, and then my wife, she won't let me quit. And one of my teammates from episode 1, Mark, it's like those two. Anytime I feel like I'm going through the blues, you know, I stop and talk to Mark, and you know, we both kind of, he puts things into perspective. So as much as I may be going, you know, at a slower pace than the rest of the team, I think the point that he makes is like, dude, you're still there. And he reminds me, like, dude, you love the sport. I know you love the sport. Use your resources and just, you know, keep focused. And it's like, oh, like, wow, you know what? I needed that reminder that, you know what? That, like, all the other stuff that's kind of clouding my brain, you know, just all the other tolls of life. It's like, oh, wait a minute. You're right. Jiu-jitsu's always there for me. What am I doing? So
I think it helps to have people to talk to. Like we were talking about, a lot of people quit at blue belt, and I would be curious if someone ever did. Zach, maybe you can add this to your list of things. I feel like you're a guy that likes to know the research behind stuff. I would be so curious how immersed in the culture those blue belts were that quit. Like if there are people that came in as a white belt and then they got promoted to blue belt, but they didn't, you know, they didn't go to watch their teammates compete, or they didn't go cross train and meet other people that train, or, you know what I mean? Like being immersed in the culture. Like at this point, honestly, even not being married to my coach, I feel like I've made enough jiu-jitsu friends that if I stopped doing jiu-jitsu, the majority of my friends would be like, hey, where the hell did you go? Like, what's going on? You know, because like we've made those relationships with people, and I think that's important. So
I think that's ideal for my next roundtable. I got a few blue belts to.
Oh, you only blue belt.
I know they're listening. I have a question, for Johan, and more so, kind of everyone collectively, but injuries and training. What kind of toll has, just the body stress? What kind of toll is that taken on your everyday life outside of jiu-jitsu?
Well, my body's broke. No, but actually, I have always had problems with my knees and my back. I think the knees are because I played badminton for like 13 years, competed and everything. And the hard surface and the running back and forth are kind of busted up my knees. And my back, just age, I think. And I've been doing martial art also for most of my years since I was 10, different type of martial arts. So, but I constantly have problems with my knees and my back. But the good and bad part is that if I don't do jiu-jitsu 1 or 2 times a week, it will get very, very worse. So when I getting sick or getting a cold and I can't train, my back will break down the week after, and I will be gone for 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So that's how it goes. But my knees are they are popping and getting out of place and stuff like that during practice, but I just need to pop them back and put on some and yeah, so it works. But yeah, I'm getting old.
You and I both, my friend.
Yeah.
And Zach, for you, again, I know coming back to training and everything, has there been any, not just recently, but I mean, period, throughout your journey, what kind of tolls have injuries played on you in your from jiu-jitsu to regular life?
Sure. So I haven't had any severe injuries. I did have a umbilical hernia one time that I had to spend probably a month off of training because they put like a mesh in there and it pulled on my abs every time I moved. So I had to take a month off because I literally couldn't do anything else. As far as knees and elbows and necks and that kind of thing, I haven't had any severe injuries. I've had, the normal, it popped or tweaked it, or, whatever those terms we use are. I'll pay for those at some point. There's no doubt in my mind. But yeah, just like Johan said, for me, it's kind of like inertia. It's an object that's moving, stays in motion. So if I get in the habit of training a few times a week and then I don't, I feel absolutely awful. And then when I pick it back up again, I feel absolutely awful. And it just, whatever side of that I land on, I just have to stick with it. So it's kind of an actual nudge to stick with what I'm doing. And I'd rather be on the jiu-jitsu side of that equation than taking a rest. So now I'm at the point where if I get hurt, then I'll at least try to do something, go to the gym and watch people, maybe do some light workouts or whatever to stay active. Because if I sit still for any length of time, man, I get stiff, I get achy, and that's just the physical. Like there's also the mental aspect. Like I get in a really pissy state if I don't get it out of my system at least a couple times a week. And my wife will be like, well, you really need to probably go train today. I'm hurting. I don't want, you go to the gym right now. So it's kind of the unspoken, that we have our physical injuries, but we have our emotional and mental injuries as well that you have to keep up with.
Sure. Absolutely. And Paige.
Yeah. I don't see, now I'm nervous because I'm the lowest rank. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to have to worry about my back. My knees are going to Jesus. So far, I haven't had too many big injuries. I think most of mine that I've had to like work through is my body responding to new movements and things, and me like, oh, is this an injury or is this like sore? And I'm gonna work through this. Like poor Alex, one of our, like, we had just started doing some lessons, and I remember being like, girl, I think I bruised my rib. I don't know. I'm really sore. Like I can't. And then later I just, you know, had kind of realized, okay, it's just because like I'm doing new movements and new things, and my body needed a second to like adjust. The biggest one for me was I had my nose broken in a tournament, and it's still a little crooked here because I did the match, and then I think it got broken in the first match, and then I continued and had a few more matches, and then refused to listen to my husband, you know, because we don't always listen to our significant others. And then like the next day, I woke up and he like rolls over and he was like, "Oh shit, your nose! Like go look in the mirror. You gotta go to the doctor." He was like, "It's broken." So then I was off the mat for 10. I think it was almost 10 weeks with that. That's probably been the biggest. I haven't had any like knees or, you know, I get banged up now that I'm trying to do all the things Alex is. You know, with the wrestling and the stand-up, my face is taking a little bit more of a beating than I'm used to. Although I secretly kind of like it. I'll text Alex. I'm like, look at this bruise I got trying to do that thing with the guy. Like, I kind of like it. I'm a weird. But I haven't had any major injuries. And I think just learning to train through and listening to your body and knowing the difference, you know, like being aware of certain moves that you shouldn't do or that maybe you are capable, you know, just like knowing your body's limitations. Like I'm a 30-something-year-old mom, like there's no gogoplatas happening. It's not gonna happen for me. That's okay. But I think realizing that is how you continue to train for the long term, like the long game.
This thing about listening to your body, I had to learn that too. I actually, now I remember, I actually had an injury. I broke my hand, and it was the bone on the side of the hand here. So, and I just thought, well, yeah, I will tape it and just move on. So I went with this broken hand for like half a year before it went really bad. So I had to get help, and my wife works. Well, she's an X-ray nurse. So I have to promise her now that I will check up on my injuries and listen to my body. So yeah, but that's a big thing. Listen to your body.
Yep.
And Alex, how about you with the toll that, you know, training has had on you from the mat to just outside life physically?
Yeah, physically and emotionally. On the lighter side, I feel like when you train all the time, whether it's jiu-jitsu or just working out all the time, I feel like you're always a little sore. I feel like I'm always a little sore, but I've kind of been smarter about ranking about where I'm at in the soreness level. But it's just like if you move, you're sore. If you don't move, you're sore. So it's just like you choose which type of sore you want to be, you know. But a tendency of like that, you know, when you're always moving your body, I tend to feel better. The two major injuries, or I've actually had surgery, it sucked a lot. You know, it's not just like the emotional side of just having to be sat out for a while, and then like the physical atrophy that you get from your body, but also like, you know, fortunately my college paid for my surgery and rehab, because being a collegiate athlete, I took full advantage of the fact that you could get everything paid for things. So even if I'd get hurt in jiu-jitsu, I'd just go to wrestling practice and be like, oh no, I broke my leg, but it was in wrestling, so you guys have to pay for it.
Oh no.
That's like a little hack that I've seen a lot of collegiate athletes use, but then also like I've learned, you know, on that, because being a collegiate athlete, the craziness of and the extreme of collegiate sports and how, you know, you're it's not all colleges, but a lot of colleges, and it's still like a very big tendency for collegiate sports that, you know, your coaches might care for you, but like you're just like a body at the end of the day. It's like the team needs you, but then you use your body until you're completely broken, and then you're thrown away or replaced by the next person in line, and it sucks. And I've seen a lot of very talented young people like just change their whole life because of not just overuse injuries, but injuries that could have been prevented from just sitting out for a week or two, but it became so bad that, you know, they have long lasting effects on their life, especially with neck and back injuries, you know, anything dealing with your spine. And so I've been trying to, fortunately, I've only had like the shoulder and knee surgery. The knee surgery sucked more, I think, way more than the shoulder, because I think realizing that I can't just like walk around from place to place was like, that really sucked. And it was really funny. I didn't need a wheelchair. I just needed like my crutches, but like my coach was just like on me about like, don't use your leg or something. And so I was like, okay, fine, I'll get a wheelchair. And I couldn't find a wheelchair. I went to all the Goodwills, and apparently some dude was buying all the wheelchairs. I was like, are you kidding me? In like the same metro Atlanta area. So I went to Craigslist. I found some lady on a wheelchair, went all the way out there, like out of the way. And I went to go pick it up, and then she's telling me the story of how her obese grandmother died in that wheelchair. And I was like, hi, why are you telling me this? And then I get in the wheelchair, and it was an oversized wheelchair. Like I could fit my backpack, like I have two backpacks on both sides. I barely fit through like the doors of things.
Oh my God.
And I was like, why am I even using this? But it was hilarious. I felt like I had to wheel with my arms like completely my wrist, just like this. Like I couldn't put it down. It was really funny. But and so I can barely even fit. I had to take that wheelchair to my parents' house and like put it in storage because it doesn't fit around. But yeah, like it's just those. I'm getting better as an athlete, determining and making sure I'm listening to my body, like what Johan was saying, and being smarter about everything. And of course, I'm still a little bit of a hypocrite when it comes at like everyone's great at giving advice, but taking their own advice is like, you know. So I try to be better about that, especially when it comes to neck injuries and back injuries. Like I've had a little bit of that from just like wrestling and stuff. And I try to listen to my body more, especially when that happens, because it's just such a downhill slide, super fast. And neck and back injuries, I've seen how it can affect a lot of people's just the quality of life, you know. And so just trying to avoid those big ones for the most part. But, you know, the active recovery is, in my opinion, think even more important than your actual training, because, I mean, that's what keeps you on the mat. And I've been happy because I've actually recently, I guess these past 2 years have been healthier than I've ever been.
Don't jinx it. Don't say it out loud. Don't nobody say it out loud.
Knocking off.
We're all gonna get injured tomorrow while training. Oh my God.
Right, you're gonna be like out for. I'm not even gonna say it. Yeah. But yeah, so I've been happy that everything's been going super well for me, and I've been on top of. I've been feeling the best that I've ever felt as like consistently training, you know. And I feel like other black belts, I mean, they always say that like, oh, I'm always hurt and broken, like I've never not competed. And it's just like, you know, that stigma of like, oh, just keep pushing. But like I feel like I've been way smarter, and I actually compete at a really healthy, you know, percentage of my body. I'm like, I'm actually don't feel injured when I go to compete. I feel great. So that's something I'm trying to keep up. because I want to do this for a really long time. Even if I don't want to do it competitively when I get older, I still want to do jiu-jitsu forever. I think it's great to just stay in shape and, you know, form of activity. So, yeah.
There's a line from an old movie, 1992. I know some of y'all might be a little too young for that, but you know. The movie's called The Program. It's a football movie, and there's a line in the movie where the running back gets cracked during practice. He falls down. He's laying there. Coach comes over and goes, "Are you hurt or are you injured?"
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, "What's the difference?" Well, if you're hurt, you can keep playing. And I always thought about that as I've gotten older now. And now I say that to myself. I'm like, well, it does. I am hurt, but I still got to listen to my body.
Emotionally and physically hurt.
It's like, I take it now where it's like, yes, I'm hurt, but I still got to be smart. You know, it's like, you know, go back out there, but not work around it. So, yeah, the injury game can be wild. And then the after effect into your regular life is also even wilder. So, I'm going to hand this back over to Tiana.
Okay, Paige, I know on your social media, you're quite open about the fact that you struggled in the past with body image and eating problems. How has doing BJJ and lifting helped you overcome those?
Oh man, honestly, before I started doing the lifting, competing in jiu-jitsu didn't really help with the eating disorder. I was constantly trying to like make weight or, you know, lose weight. But I think once, you know, it all goes back to looking at your own jiu-jitsu journey. Like I said before, I had to finally decide like, okay, if I'm going to be a mom and I'm going to be a good mom and a wife and a business owner, like I can't consume myself so much with, you know, dropping weight and, you know, I can't run to the sauna and do all these little things to drop weight and stuff. Like I had to find a balance of like, I can sit down and have dinner with my family and my child. You know, I have a little girl. So as females, it was really important for me not to let her see like, oh, mommy's constantly doing all this stuff. I think once I started lifting and getting stronger and seeing that like, just because you're larger doesn't mean that you're not still healthy and athletic. That really helped me a lot. So, you know, before, after coming back from having a baby, it was just like, oh, my body's bigger and it doesn't move great and this sucks. But then once I started like weightlifting and doing a lot more of the, you know, kind of like Alex said, like active recovery days, like the other day, I didn't lift or train jiu-jitsu, but like my daughter and I went for a 2-hour hike. It wasn't a big up mountain hike, but like we were hiking and moving. I think that it has just helped me realize that I can be good at jiu-jitsu for who I am and not for who I try to be or how I try to make my body be. And, you know, one of the biggest things that happened personally, when I was competing a lot and I was trying to drop weight a lot, and I did, I mean, you can go back through my social media, like I got to a point where I was like very thin and very small, but I constantly was just tired and not able to juggle it all. And I am a firm believer that everybody's body is meant to be different, you know? So like someone else at my same height at a different weight, that works for them. You know, there was a moment where my husband told me that my daughter, they were playing or something, and she said, like, look, I'm skinny like mommy. And I was like, okay, we need to fix this. Like, she was 4. I think she was 4 at the time. And I was like, no, I don't want my 4-year-old being concerned with that. So I think that jiu-jitsu really just helped me tap into, I guess it's going to sound cheesy, just like my inner strength as a woman, that it didn't matter about size. And I think that's too what I love about jiu-jitsu, regardless of what a lot of internet trolls may say, that you can be any size in this sport and still enjoy it and be good at it. And like, especially when you learn that control, So Alex's partner, Faye, I've rolled with her before. And what I love is, now she may not feel the same way when she rolls with me because I'm larger than her, but like, I just felt confident that as we were rolling and going through stuff, I didn't feel like any point that like she was trying to muscle me just because she was smaller. And I didn't feel like I was ever just trying to drop my weight on her because I knew that I was heavier than her. I'm sure it happens a little because I'm a blue belt and I don't mean to do it. But, you know, I think that jiu-jitsu has helped me learn to carry my body better. It's a whole new journey now, though, at blue belt and competing. I've actually run into, you know, like I did a tournament one time and there was no one in my weight class. So I had to do open class, which like, sometimes as a female, you know, it's a little bit of a blow to the ego. But I feel like that's also just because of like how we're conditioned as women from so many years of thinking that like we should be tiny. And that's not to say anything against people that are small. I just, you know what I mean? For your own personal, like, why are you doing it? Why was I cutting all this weight for tournaments? I'm not a world-class athlete. This is not something that I'm doing for income. I need to compete at what I train at. And I'm, you know, like Alex was saying, being able to go into matches feeling good is so important, you know? I'm like, why am I training 10 pounds heavier and then dropping all this weight 2 weeks for a tournament? And then I go into the tournament and I feel like total shit. Like, it just wasn't worth it to me. So I don't know if that totally answered the question, but I am definitely pretty passionate about it, mostly just because it's kind of evolved on my journey. Like if you would have told me 5 years ago, like, oh, you're going to be promoting like people living in larger bodies and being happy and being athletic and healthy, like I would have been like, no, man, I really want to be skinny. I don't care. Like, I just want to be skinny because I want to be skinny. So it's definitely helped me a lot. And I think the coolest thing is I've had so many people, not even just women. Like I've had a lot of people message me and they're like, oh my God, like they'll private message me because maybe they're still like nervous to admit it, but they're like, oh my God, I totally resonated with that post, or I totally agree with that thing. So, you know, it's really helped, I guess.
I have a really close friend who she's under that same concept in her brain of I just want to be skinny for the sake of being skinny.
Yeah, like no legit reason.
Yeah. And it I mean, growing up, it drove me crazy. And even now, still to this day, she's been coming over every so often. You know, we'll she's trying to get into jiu-jitsu a little bit, but she doesn't want to do like it in a group. So I, you know, was showing her arm drag and I grabbed her arm and it was so frail. And I freaked out, and we sat down and had a talk. And since then, it's been kind of touch and go with us now. It's like,
no.
I'm not trying. Yeah, it's
you
like I'm not
to
trying.
The woman about her weight. What's wrong with you, man?
Well, oh no, we've got a wild past when it comes to that. Some things that she said to me, I'm like, hey man, I have feelings. Okay. But no, I definitely, you know, I've seen that, you know, just up close with my friends, you know, the ideal of just I want to be skinny. Skinny, because I remember asking her that when we were younger. It's like, well, why? What's the benefit? She's like, I want to look good. And this was during that period in the early 2000s where, like, I think Nicole Richie and Paris Hilton is like, oh, that's hot. And it's like,
I think it's funny. I saw a meme somewhere that said, why do men look so great without makeup? And someone responded, because no one ever told them they didn't. Like, because no one walks around telling men that they should be smaller, wear more makeup or anything. And I'm definitely not trying to get on a soapbox by any means, but I feel like, you know, to kind of go back to the question, Tiana, like jiu-jitsu just helped me realize that like, it's absolutely fine to be big and strong, but also to know when to tap into that and when not to, which I think is really cool, you know, at least for me in my journey. Like, I love that there's such a size difference between Alex and I, and she could totally kick my butt any day, but that like just learning how to tap into like being a larger athlete and trying to show other people that it's okay. Because I feel like, unfortunately, on social media, there's this whole big misconception that like body positivity means you're promoting people eating Doritos all day and being overweight. And like, you're not. That's not what I promote by any means. I just try to promote that like it's totally okay to look different than other people and still be strong. Like, not all athletes are super tiny, and that's okay. So, I mean, weightlifting helps too, because you kind of, you know, it helps to build muscle.
Yeah, but you can see it as train to be healthy, but not to be skinny.
Yes. Oh, exactly. Yeah.
Because health is a whole other story. Like So
I feel like
we need to change that.
Yeah, I feel like I'm healthier now than I ever was at my tiniest. But when I was at my tiniest, I had so many people like congratulating me. And it also didn't help that I used to work in fitness. So like my whole job was being at a gym all day, watching people like try to sweat off every calorie. Like, I'm sure that didn't help for my mental state. But yeah, like now I focus on like eating good foods and weightlifting and training and being strong. And I don't have a lot of people that comment on my health, but when I was like running all the time and always burning more calories than I was consuming, and I was like 145 pounds, which I'm 5'7", like that's kind of a larger female. I was really tiny. People all the time would be like, you're so thin, you're so fat, like what do you do? And of course we lie, you know, oh, I eat really healthy. No, man, I don't eat anything. I drink water, I have lunch and dinner, and I run, and then I pass out and fall asleep. Jiu-jitsu, so actually that's probably how jiu-jitsu has helped me in order to survive.
All right, so we're getting closer to that time. I didn't realize the time as I looked at it, so I want to ask just one real quick question to Alex here. You know, I've been thinking about it with you coaching and competing, and just kind of having that game, both those games in your pockets. How would you describe your BJJ game versus your teaching style?
I think they're very similar. The way I coach, I could see what I personally like to do. And the way I coach is very similar to how I was coached with my first jiu-jitsu coach, Steve Mitchell. And he's very direct, and it's like step by step, like I could teach someone something that they don't know right on the spot, but make it like efficient. And so I'd say I always try to find like the most efficient answer, whenever I'm competing and coaching, and try to, you know, get the most like efficient result out of it. I think the hardest thing for me is finding that balance between competing and coaching, you know, because I do take part of like the kids program, and then also with teaching privates, I get invested into the people that I work with, and I want to be there when they compete, especially. So, but it's hard for me because I also have to, I have to have training camps, and get ready for my competition. So it frustrates me that, like, because I love coaching, and I one of my goals is to be one of the best, like, you know, female coaches by the time I'm done with my career and stuff. Is so, but I was also told, like, by my coaches and my previous coaches and Bruno today, like, I need to also focus on myself, like focus on being a competitor right now. So it's just like splitting that time well enough so that, like, sometimes I miss a lot of the kids tournaments because somehow they always line up on the days that I have to go compete. And it like breaks my heart because I want to be there for them. But then I also have to understand that, like, I'm still building my career and building my brand, my name right now. So I also have to go out there and compete. But yes, my teaching and my coaching and my competition, I'd say they're very similar. The way I compete and coach is probably like what I see through my perspective, but I also take into account how that person likes to, what their game is like, what they like to roll. So I don't try to don't try to. I wouldn't tell them to do a berimbolo if they're like a Masters Division 3, and I'd tell
Thanks,
them,
Alex.
just to get up, come up on top, But I'm very specific a lot of the times when I coach. I feel like, I'm playing a video game. I'm the one holding the controller and you're the character. And if you don't do what I say, I'm like, why aren't you doing it? But usually if I say it enough times, then they'll do it. But you also have to take in account like the different belt levels, skill levels. As the higher rank the person you're coaching is, it becomes the coaching advice becomes more advice rather than like, I need you to do this. It's not more of a mandate. It's more advice because they have enough knowledge and skills that they kind of know what they're doing. I just kind of can give the third person point of view of what I see,
Okay. And just kind of real quick, kind of piggybacking off of that, which do you find more enjoyable, coaching or competing? I wasn't going to ask that, but I was like, you know what? Let me end that. Let me end on that one.
Yeah, winning feels amazing. It's just like jiu-jitsu, like winning and losing for yourself feels is like brings me the highest highs and lowest lows because I put jiu-jitsu in front of everything, but also like getting to experience like teaching kids and watching the joy on the kids' face when they win. And then even the parents, I've had parents come up to me, like full grown men, like starting to cry and stuff, like watching he's like, I've never thought I'd see my son. And it's amazing. And it's like so rewarding. And so I feel like that's why I really enjoy coaching and getting into coaching. I feel like as much as I love to win, I do love watching other people and my teammates succeed. So that's why I'm so torn all the time between coaching and competing. And it wasn't and that's why also like me and Faye, I was like, I personally like I want a kid already, and she's like, no, I want to enjoy our youth. But it's like that back and forth, and I just like basically adopt kids from the kids class and be like, this is mine, you're mine.
It's gonna be like a whole group of like little minions that grow up under Alex, and they're just gonna like be amazing world athletes.
Exactly. And like it's just awesome watching them compete. And like sometimes it's crazy. You watch someone who like a kid might not be the most talented when they start off with, but when you start with them and then as they progress and then you promote them, you give them their gray belt, and then all of a sudden become this beast. And I'm like, where did that come from? It's like you give them the belt and all of a sudden they get some superpowers. And I feel like that happens for adults too. All of a sudden, like the whole black belt magic thing, and like it happens for kids too. And it's awesome to see, So I'm kind of at a tie right now. I don't know. I'd say I do really love watching other people succeed. That you've been able to put your hand in their jiu-jitsu career,
Okay. Good. So we're gonna go ahead and wrap up here, just because I know we got lives outside of this, so we'll get ready to get to it. So I just want to say again from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for making time to do this with me. Every single one of you. This has been amazing. And I'm going to be honest, as I'm sitting here listening to you all answer, I was getting a little emotional just thinking like, damn, dude, I am privileged to call you all my friends. So thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you.
So in closing out, normally I ask everybody, any shout outs. We got a big table here. So what I'm gonna do is I got stuff from everyone's previous episodes. I'm gonna drop all those in the show notes. But before we get out of here, I'm just gonna go around one by one and ask you to just drop your Instagram info, so that way we can find you. So Johan, go ahead and let us know where we can find you.
Yeah, Yulor 80.
Sorry, I got muted. I was going to spell it out because people didn't know. Was it that's JOHLOR 80 Johan.
Yep.
And Zach, where can we find you at, my friend?
Yeah, student of BJJ. The Instagram account is probably the easiest way to get in touch with me. DM me anytime. You know, I love talking about the sport day or night.
Awesome. Thank you, my friend. And Paige.
BJJ Mama is BJJMOMMA is my Instagram handle. And I just like to share my personal journey and hope it helps people with theirs.
And Alex.
It's Instagram is Enriquez AENRIQUEZ 218. Trying to be more on social media because it's what I have to do as a professional athlete. Post more reels, technique videos, and stuff. Feel free to, I love to chat, DM me at any time. Any questions, more than welcome to answer about jiu-jitsu, technique, whatever.
Excellent. And my co-host, Miss Tiana.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram under Tiana, which is TEANNA_Taylor, TAYLOR_BJJ.
Awesome.
Nice and long.
Thank you, Tiana, for helping and both of you guys putting this together. Thank you. It's really cool. I can't wait to hear the finished product.
Thank you for all of your responses because I feel I've learned a lot from all of you and some of the insights, your experiences, advice. It's been really enjoyable and thank you so much for dedicating over 2 hours of your time to this. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And for everybody out there listening, thank you so much for being along this journey with me. Like I said, I didn't think we were going to make it past 5 episodes, but here we are at 100. So thank you. If you have any questions, concerns, reach out to me. I'm available at Off the Mats Podcast on Instagram or also bjj.wiki on Instagram as well. Big shout out to everyone here today. Thank you. I love you all. And otherwise, you guys keep listening. I'm going to keep making these shows. Thank you so much. And we'll be back for 101. Bye, y'all.
Deep with it. Now let me sing a song.